At 6:47 in the morning, a maintenance worker named Isef arrived at the base of a 79-story tower in Dubai Marina. He had done this exact walk 1,400 times. He knew every security guard by name, every elevator code by floor, every shortcut through the service corridors. On this particular morning, he stopped. The sky above the tower was the wrong color. Not sunrise orange. Not desert haze. Something darker. Something moving. By 9 a.m., the footage was everywhere. By noon, the official statements were nowhere. This is not simply the story of a fire. This is the story of a building designed to be the safest, most engineered, most monitored structure in one of the wealthiest cities on the planet, catching fire in a way that nobody officially confirms, nobody fully explains, and nobody in a position of authority is prepared to answer for. The tower stands in Dubai Marina, a district that, as of 2024, contains over 200 completed towers packed into approximately 4.5 kilometers of reclaimed land. That density figure is not an accident. It is the direct consequence of a development model that prioritized vertical ambition over horizontal caution. Dubai has built more skyscrapers above 300 meters than any other city on Earth. It has spent decades constructing a reputation for architectural invincibility. The tower involved stands at approximately 312 meters. It has 79 floors. Construction was completed in 2011, and it received its occupancy certificate in 2013 after a phased handover period that, according to documents reviewed by regional property analysts, included at least 3 deferred inspection items related to facade materials. Hold those 3 deferred items in your mind. The facade, that is where this begins. After those fires, Dubai's civil defense issued updated guidance. Developers were instructed to audit existing cladding and submit compliance reports. Here is the number that matters. As of late 2023, independent architectural auditors estimated that between 30 and 40% of high-rise residential towers completed before 2016 in Dubai had not fully replaced non-compliant cladding. They had filed reports. Some had partially remediated. A meaningful portion had done neither. The building burning this morning falls within that pre-2016 construction window. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern becoming visible. Dubai has a documented and specific history with facade fires. The Address Downtown Fire, New Year's Eve, 2015. Broadcast live to an audience watching the fireworks. The Torch Tower Fire, 2015. The same building, Torch Tower, burned again in 2017. 4 fires. The same class of material. The same failure mode. Each one was a data point. They were not being read as a pattern. The material at the center of every one of these events is aluminium composite panels with polyethylene cores. Lightweight. Cheap relative to alternatives. Visually identical to fire-rated panels from the outside. Thermally, a completely different substance. When polyethylene core panels ignite, they do not simply burn. They melt and drip. They carry flame vertically along the exterior of a building faster than any internal fire suppression system is designed to address. The fire does not go through the building. It goes up the outside of it. The fire does not go through the building. It goes up the outside of it. That single mechanical fact is the reason why buildings with working sprinkler systems, working alarm systems, and trained emergency staff still burn from the facade outward. The suppression infrastructure is positioned for interior fires. The cladding turns the exterior of the building into the fire itself. Now follow the money, because this is where the pattern hardens. A full recladding of a 79-story residential tower in Dubai using compliant aluminium composite panels or equivalent fire-rated alternatives costs, on conservative industry estimates, between $80 and $140 million. That cost does not fall on the developer. The building was handed over years ago. It falls on the owners' corporation, the collective of individual unit owners who purchased apartments in that tower. In a building of 79 floors with an average of 6 units per floor, that is approximately 470 individual owners, many of whom are overseas investors who purchased the unit as an asset, not a residence, and who have limited appetite for a special levy that erodes the yield on an investment they made a decade ago. The people responsible for fixing the danger are not the people who created it. But people living inside the danger are not always aware of it. On the 34th floor of the same tower lived a British national named Claire. She had relocated from Manchester for a regional finance role. She paid $1.4 million for a 2-bedroom unit with marina views. She purchased it as both a home and an investment. When she signed the sale and purchase agreement, she asked her conveyancing lawyer about building compliance. She received a letter confirming that the tower held a valid occupancy certificate. What that letter did not contain, because it was not required to contain it, was any statement about the cladding audit status. At 9 a.m., Claire was standing on the corner watching the upper floors of her building release smoke. She had her laptop, her passport, and her cat in a carrier. She left the art on the walls. Now consider the regulatory architecture beneath all of this, because the cladding is the symptom. The deeper structure is a compliance framework that, by the admission of Dubai's own civil defense reports from 2021 and 2022, remains incomplete in its enforcement reach. Dubai operates a dual-track system for building compliance. New construction is governed by the Dubai Fire and Life Safety Code, substantially updated in 2018 and again in 2022, enforceable, current, applicable. But existing buildings, towers already occupied, fall under a retrofit compliance framework that is guidance-based rather than enforcement mandatory in all cases. This means that for a building carrying non-compliant cladding, the pathway from identified risk to legally compelled remediation involves multiple steps, committee reviews, owners' corporation votes, and financing arrangements, any one of which can stall the process for years. Compare this to what happened in London after the Grenfell Tower disaster of June 2017, which killed 72 people and traced directly to similar aluminium composite panel failures. The UK government introduced a mandatory remediation timeline with legal deadlines and a government-backed funding mechanism for buildings where owners could not finance the work independently. The process was slow. It was contested. But the legal obligation existed. In Dubai, the equivalent framework is still being negotiated. This creates a specific and measurable consequence. A building can be internally known, to carry elevated fire risk, and still be legally occupied, legally sold, and legally marketed as luxury accommodation, because the final legal trigger for compelled action has not yet been pulled. A building can be known to carry elevated fire risk and still be legally occupied, legally sold, and legally marketed as luxury accommodation. A building can be known to carry elevated fire risk and still be legally occupied, legally sold, and legally marketed as luxury accommodation. Dubai's real estate market recorded approximately $142 billion in transaction value in 2023. That figure is the most cited number in every piece of promotional content about the Emirates property sector. But if between 30 and 40% of the residential tower stock completed before 2016 carries unresolved cladding questions, then some portion of that $142 billion is circulating through assets whose physical risk profile has never been fully reconciled with their market price. The question is not whether someone will buy. People are still buying. The question is whether they know what they are buying into. This is not a problem unique to Dubai. Every rapid-build skyline carries the same fundamental tension, the speed of construction ambition against the patience of material reality. Steel fatigues. Sealants dry. Expansion joints move. The cladding applied in 2010 under a specification considered acceptable in 2010 now sits on a building being asked to perform under fire safety standards written in response to disasters that had not yet happened. The buildings did not know the future. But the systems around them were supposed to. By 2027, Regional Property Consultancy estimates project that Dubai will deliver an additional 74,000 residential units. The vast majority of this supply is vertical. Tower after tower after tower, each one built to current code, each one adding to a skyline that will in 15 years contain a new generation of aging high-rises whose compliance status will again need to be audited against standards that do not yet exist. The cycle does not end. It simply moves up the timeline. ISEF eventually goes home. He is not a resident of the tower. He never was. He worked on the maintenance crew. His job is to keep the building running. He is not responsible for what it was built with, what was deferred in the inspection, or what decision was made in a boardroom in 2009 when the cheaper panel option was selected on a spreadsheet to preserve margin. He stopped that morning because something in him, some instinct older than any building code, told him not to walk toward it. That instinct, uncertified and unofficial, may have been the only working safety system in the building at 6:47 a.m. What does it mean when the most engineered city in the world is outperformed by a man stopping at the base of a tower because the sky does not look right? Dubai will investigate. Reports will be published. Committees will meet. And 200 other towers in that same 4.5-kilometer stretch of reclaimed land will continue to be occupied, marketed, and sold, each one carrying its own version of those 3 deferred inspection items that nobody on the outside can see. The smoke clears. The building stands. That might be the most unsettling part of all.